Scottsdale voters elected a new mayor and city council last year. Not only did they get new faces at City Hall when the new year started, the new council kicked up a lot of dust in a city that calls itself the West's most western town.
From a controversy over a parking garage contract, to the elimination of DEI measures, to an ethics complaint about new Mayor Lisa Borowski, the political pot is boiling in Scottsdale. Borowski called her entree into office a baptism by fire and said she's hoping the council will ease into a more deliberate pace as the year progresses. Welcome to The Gaggle, a weekly politics podcast from the Arizona Republic and AzCentral.com. I'm your host, Ron Hansen. I cover national politics for the Republic.
And I'm Mary Jo Pitzel. I cover state politics and policy. To learn more about this hot start to city business in Scottsdale, we've invited reporter Taylor Seeley back to the studio to discuss what's going on. Taylor is no stranger to the Gaggle, nor to city council antics, as she's covered Phoenix City Hall for several years now. Taylor, welcome back to the Gaggle.
Thanks for having me.
So, set the scene for us, Taylor. There's a new city council. Is it a big shift from its predecessor? And what's so different about this group compared to prior years?
This is a huge shift for Scottsdale City Council. There are 7 members on the body, and in the last election, what we essentially saw was a huge backlash from voters against the former council members and mayor. It was a huge anti-incumbent wave, and with that, they brought in a new slate, a new mayor, Lisa Borowski, and new council members, Vice Mayor Jan Dubascus, Councilman Adam Quasman, Marianne McAllen. And so with these new council members, we have seen a very rapid and aggressive pace of change in the city.
With this new group, things seem to fall apart pretty quickly under the new mayor and council. Where did it begin to go awry?
You basically saw things go awry from day one. To set the scene, they get sworn in, and within hours, they have their first council meeting. And at that first council meeting, there are agenda items that seem to take some council members and the mayor, Lisa Borowski, by surprise. They have an agenda item to repeal the sustainability plan. This was a huge deal. The city and its voters, its residents, had worked 3 years to pass this just the month before, and all of a sudden it's on the agenda for a repeal. I've covered cities for 5 years. It's very unusual to repeal a plan that was just passed without at least a work study session where you would have a discussion without necessarily taking action, so that especially a new slate of elected leaders, a mayor, new council members who have never interacted with each other in public before get a chance to just talk it out, be informal, ask the city staff questions about what's going on. So that's day one. Not just, hey, we're here to discuss this sustainability plan. It's, hey, let's vote on repealing it. And so immediately you have the mayor, council members saying, whoa, this is really quick. Can we slow down? Can we maybe consider moving this to the next meeting and let's maybe hear some people out? There's another agenda item. Oh, let's get a new city manager, because just hours before let me back up. Just before the election, their long-term city manager, Jim Thompson, resigns. Not totally unusual. There's a whole new cast of characters coming in. He says he's moving to Colorado for family. Not super unusual. But he replaces his acting replacement. That guy, Bill Murphy, resigns the day of the meeting. Now, I don't have reporting to say verifiably he knew the writing was on the wall, but when you see an agenda item to discuss a new acting city manager, you can see that the writing is on the wall. So he resigns. They get in, and there's an agenda item. Consider a new city manager. The mayor says again, wait, this is really fast. Can we maybe think about this? Can we just vote on this next time? So she makes the motion. Hey, council members, peers, could we consider this? Becomes a vote. Nope. Council rejects her. So then her hands are tied. They are forced to vote. Name a new city manager, repeal the sustainability plan. For what it's worth, the mayor was not against repealing the sustainability plan, although she did vote against the repeal. She actually thinks that the sustainability plan is horrible. She thinks it was a waste of money. Her concern is that in the item to repeal the sustainability plan, they also call for a new task force to make a new sustainability plan. And she's saying, well, if on principle we're opposed to a sustainability plan, why are we reinstalling a whole new task force to create a new sustainability plan? So to set the scene, that is day one of their terms in office, repealing a 3-year plan, getting a new city manager. All the while, you have some council members saying, hold on, please, can we slow down? And everyone else is like, nope, we're going. Yes, so among the string of controversies, that was kind of the next in the pipeline, eliminating DEI. What that meant in Scottsdale was specifically eliminating its Office of Diversity and Inclusion. So this office was not initially called the Office of Diversity and Inclusion. It had a different name, but it started in 1998. So this was a long-standing office. It's also not a huge office. It had a diversity director, and it had the city's ADA coordinator, so the person who just makes sure that, the sidewalks are appropriately curbed for people with wheelchairs, making sure the city is accessible to people with disabilities. So this gets put on the agenda again, to the surprise of some other council members. And it's not for a study session. They're not going to sit there and discuss this. They are taking action. They are ready. So it gets eliminated really quickly. And again, even the mayor who supported the elimination of DEI is kind of sitting there shaking her head a little bit saying, my goodness, so many controversial things so quickly. We're like kind of steamrolling into these things, and we're really casting ourselves in this light that might not be the most beneficial for the city. What are we doing here? But they do it. And it has just become abundantly clear that the new council is not messing around.
Okay, so let's downshift to something that maybe the council could do, right? There's a controversy about a new parking garage in downtown Scottsdale. What's that about?
So this is an issue that stems back years. Some residents would even say decades. Old Town is notorious for its parking shortage. You go down there, it's very difficult to find parking, especially during peak seasons like spring training or the Phoenix Open. And so for a long time, the city has tried to figure out, where do we put parking? And basically what it boils down to, where is Old Town, South Old Town, and North Old Town, divided along Indian School Road, had this dispute over where the parking should go. Some people felt it should be kind of near the arts area, the civic center. Some people thought it should go more towards the bar district. And finally, after a long dispute, the former city council decides, you know what? We'll do both. We'll do one in both areas, satisfy the needs. So fast forward to this new council, it's on the agenda. Well, the mayor in her telling says, one of my primary pillars of my campaign was high quality development and involving residents. And from her telling, she gets this item and she's like, wait, this parking structure in Old Town is going to go on the parking corral. This is where the farmers market is. This is right next to the Old Town Mission. In her telling, she starts walking around, talking to people, saying, hey, did you know about this? Did you know about this? And apparently, again in her telling, no one knows about this. No one's for it. You even have the farmers market people coming out who get roughly, they say 6,000 people a day to their farmers market every, Saturday, saying they didn't know about it and they're super opposed to it. So it's on the agenda. It's on what's called a consent agenda, where they're not even really going to discuss it. They're just going to pass it real quick, kind of like a signing, just crossing the T's, dotting the I's. But the mayor pulls it from the consent agenda and she's like, hold up. I promised high quality development and resident input. So can we discuss this a little more? As I'm sure you're surprised to hear, the council says, no, we cannot keep discussing this. To be fair, this was something that, the RFP had already gone out. They had already done the bidding process. This was just supposed to be, again, crossing the finish line. The contract had been, was supposed to go to chassis building team, and it was supposed to be finished, but the mayor didn't want it to be finished. The real controversy with it starts, though, when the mayor pulls it from the agenda and she starts to have these meetings behind closed doors. She invites the city manager. She invites some of her council colleagues. She invites some residents to discuss this, and she also invites one of her friends and a top campaign donor named David Hobie Jr. He's an architect, very well known for the green and orange luxury condos right next to Fashion Square Mall. And she asks Hobie Jr. in her telling to come up with a rendering. She says, I don't like this. I'm really concerned. I don't think that, like, right out the gate, this is my first term as mayor. I'm going to have this ugly parking garage in Old Town, and this is what I'm going to be known for. I don't want this. So she, again, in her telling, says, Hobie, can you help me? Can you come up with a rendering? He apparently says, yeah, sure. As your friend, I'll come up with this. And he presents it in this meeting. You have different interpretations of what happened at that meeting. The supporters of the mayor say it was very obvious Hobie Jr. had no intent to get involved, no desire whatsoever. He was merely presenting this idea, that's also what the mayor says. But you have this other cast of characters who say, well, this was kind of concerning. This is her friend. This is her one of her top campaign donors. He's an architect. He knows how to build parking garages, and he is suddenly proposing this beautiful structure when we're already supposed to be giving out this contract. Like, this is a done deal. And they're just, from their point of view, like, this doesn't look good. One of the residents says he starts to feel like this conspiracy is afoot when Hobie Jr., in this man's telling, says something to the effect of, that contract's really expensive. And there's a huge dispute over precisely what was said. But nonetheless, the question is, was the mayor trying to improperly help her friend get this contract?
This garage issue morphed into an ethics complaint to the county attorney. Does it have any merit?
It's really hard to weigh in on whether it has merit. I wasn't at the meetings. I don't know what precisely was said. I think it makes sense hearing the different points of view. I think they both make sense. I can see where the mayor's saying, I didn't want what I think is going to be a really ugly parking garage in our beautiful, iconic Old Town to be the first thing that happens in my term. But I can also completely understand the other's point of view where they say, but this is her top campaign donor pitching a parking structure on a contract that was essentially done. So, whether it has merit is really hard to say, but I am excited to see what the county attorney says, because this information is before her right now. So Rachel Mitchell's office is looking over informal information. This was not submitted by law enforcement. It is not technically verified, but it's information basically saying, hey, county attorney, this didn't smell right to us. It felt kind of weird. Can you look into it? If there was any criminal action, take action. So I think it'll be really telling if the county attorney decides not to launch a formal investigation. I think it'll say no criminal wrongdoing, or at least none that is strong enough that we think we could pursue it. And if they do, then certainly there was merit.
Do we know who filed the complaint?
We do not. And that is the question on everyone's mind. The mayor says she has suspicions of who it is, but she won't say who she thinks it is.
So the rookie mayor has already made political enemies.
It would seem.
Okay. To be clear, what is the status of the parking garage or garages in Scottsdale at this point? What is the status of any of those projects?
So despite the mayor's best effort, she was outvoted 6-1. She was the only one against the contract. So it was approved. This is to be going forward. I will say there is a petition effort circulating among residents.
Let's zoom back a bit on this. How is Borowski navigating this? She's new to the job. It's sort of felt like a bear trap is closed on her right out of the gate. Tell us about her background, her political experience and such. How is she handling all this?
It's her first term as mayor. She was on the city council for 4 years, around 2008 to 2012. She's a litigator. I think she is just so surprised. And as a City Hall reporter, I have been kind of surprised by her candor. Even at her State of the City, she called it baptism by fire. She's been pretty candid that she really wants the council to move a little slower, get into a rhythm, that is more inclusive of residents' opinions, even residents they don't agree with. I think she just wants everything to slow down. She's also really irritated at the anonymous blogs in Scottsdale. Scottsdale has like a Gossip Girl style City Hall blog that really, really stirs controversy in the city. And she has not been on the, she's been on the receiving end of that blog. So she warned about that at her State of the City. I think she's just trying to kind of be as clear as she can that she is surprised at what's happening.
Taylor, city councils are nonpartisan by design, but political allegiance are inevitable. Are the events of these last few months breaking along any kind of predictable party lines?
Not really. That's the interesting thing about Scottsdale City Council. I mean, they're all pretty conservative. The new council members, so we have the mayor, Lisa Borowski, Adam Quasman, and Jan DeBascus. They're new. They're the new conservative members. Then we have Marianne McAllen, who's to the left of the council. We thought that the three newbies would join Barry Graham and Kathy Littlefield. And for the most part, that has happened. But you're just, there's been a number of votes where things are not falling on the lines that we would have thought. It's like really weird how every council member has kind of their specific issues and, things to kind of debate.
Well, really weird seems to be the order of the year so far in Scottsdale. Taylor, thank you so much for joining us and helping us make sense of what's happening over there. If our listeners want to follow your work on social media, where can they find you?
I'm on X at Taylor Seely 95. Seely is Seely.